Hey, everybody. Last week, we talked about metrics and dimensions in Trevor with Data. This week, we're going to talk about segments. Segments are an incredibly powerful part of the product that allow you to filter and analyze the data in really exciting ways that I will show you. Let's dive in. So to create a segment, I'm going to hit the New Segment button. When I click that, you'll see it gives me a canvas where I can now kind of construct the segment that I want to create. I can give it a name, an ID, a description, just like I do with all my other components. But you'll see we have some unique options just to segments. I can set a scope. A scope determines how many of the events we pull in. An event scope operates on a row by row basis, just like you would kind of do in a normal BI filter. But session and person are special in that they will pull in all of the events belonging to a session or to a person where a single event within that person or session qualifies. This is incredibly useful. Additionally, I can decide whether I include or exclude that segment. Basically, it's like include everything where the criteria is met or exclude everything where the criteria is met. When I create a segment, I can do that based on any of my dimensions or metrics, which I can find over here on the right-hand side. We've also added a little convenience thing where you can see specific dimension values. And if I just drag and drop some of those dimension values in here, I can create a segment of, for example, device model equals Google Pixel 7. The preview below shows me whether that segment is working and roughly how many people, sessions, and events that segment pulls in. You'll notice if I change it from event to person, it will start pulling in more events and more sessions because it's of that kind of expansion capability of the scope of a segment. Now, where things get really fun and a little complicated is in all of the options that you have at your disposal in this segment expression. Now, you can go to the blog post to see a comprehensive list of all of the different functions and keywords and capabilities we've added, but I'll give you a little preview of some of my favorites here so you can get an idea. So first one I'm going to show you is regular expressions are actually fully supported. So I might say, the device model is Google Pixel 7, or I can use the matches function. And I'll, pick the page URL. You'll notice it has a really nice autocomplete here. Page URL matches this regular expression criteria, which means it will match specific product pages that are kind of on my site. Another function that we've added is in list. So I could say, my last touch marketing channel. Perhaps if it comes from, paid search or organic search, then I want to include it. So kind of a way to include different array level elements, which is kind of nice. So there's lots of other ones too. The only other one I'll call out here right now is maybe a between, which is kind of cool. It works on metrics really well. So I could say, total revenue is between $50 and $100, which, is kind of a nice, convenient way to incorporate metrics into your segment logic. The next thing I'm going to show you, though, is some of the sequential segmentation capabilities that you can incorporate. To show you an example of that, let's start with event type and maybe say equals product view. And if I wanted to see a sequence where someone who basically completed steps in a particular order, I could say then event type equals add to cart, then event type equals purchase. This allows me to qualify any person or session that met this exact sequence of events. Now, this is really helpful if I want to see different journeys that happen and I want to create specific segments to analyze those specific paths or journeys that users took. In addition, you can even add a within keyword. So I could say within 30 minutes, this happened. Or, especially if I'm doing something within a person context, I could say within the same session, they had this next step. So very, very powerful if you're trying to isolate individual journeys that users took. The last thing that I'm going to show you is probably the most powerful of all. Oftentimes, you need the ability to isolate events that happen just after a key event or just before some key event. That's called temporal filtering. And we've added specific keywords to allow you to do this too. So if I clear this out, let me show you an example. So I might say after first event type equals sign up. This would give me a segment showing me only the events that a person had after the first sign up event that we saw. So we wouldn't see anything before that, but only the things after that, which is really quite powerful because it allows me to analyze the very first experience that they had after signing up. You can also stack these temporal filters. So I could say on to the end of that, before last event type equals churn, for example. This would allow me to say, only help me find users where they had events between their very first sign up and their churn. This allows me to get deep intelligence into what might be happening with the flow where users follow these sort of sequences and look at just those events. Now, you can do even more complex things. We offer from, before, until, after. You can look at first or last events within those different temporal sequences. And you can even combine these with sequential segments or other sorts of segments together. Really, the sky's the limit on, what you can create. Now, that all is quite complicated. And I would be surprised if you would remember anything that I shared here. In fact, I don't always remember it myself. So that's why we've added in this really handy AI assistant that allows you to essentially describe the segment that you want to create and will take care of all of the logic for you. So let's try it out. I want a segment of people who viewed hardwood products, then added to cart, and spent more than $50. Now, as that's running, the AI has a lot of really cool capabilities that it's using behind the scenes. It will inspect your dimensions and metrics to see what it has available. It has the ability to look at example values in there. It also will check for duplicates. So if you already have a segment that does what you're asking for, it'll actually point you to that existing one rather than creating a redundant copy, which is really nice. It has the ability to push back on you as well. So if your data doesn't actually have the dimensions or metrics it needs to fulfill the request, it'll just tell you instead of trying to guess and generate something broken. And then finally, when it builds the expression, it also validates that expression to make sure that it doesn't fail. And you can see here that it's kind of come back with my segment that I needed. So the product name contains hardwood. And, within this list of page view, screen view, it then had an event type of add to cart, and then with a sum of total revenue of 50. You can see it's combined multiple functions together. It's used sequential and aggregation functions all at once to give me exactly the segment I needed. It gave me a nice display name, segment ID, and description. Pretty amazing. So if you are intimidated by creating the segment expression yourself, don't be. Let AI handle it for you. So heading over here to my notebook, let's create a simple table that I can add some segments to. I've got page URL. I'm going to add in unique users. I'll add in unique sessions, maybe events as well. And I've got a simple table. Now, I've got a few segments that I can use here And I'm going to show you how you can apply segments to the table or to different columns and all the options that you've got. First of all, I can add a segment to this drop zone here, and it will apply that segment to the entire table, which is really great. I can stack segments together. So if I want to have email users and organic social users and paid search users, that will give me the intersection of all of those different segments to my report. So it will only show me users who had all three of those things. Now, one of the things that's often useful is to say, I don't want to see the intersection of those segments. I want to see the union, or basically show me all of them, whether they had any of them. So you can click on the and operator and change it to an or operator, which then allows me to basically or those segments together and say, if any of those segments qualify, then include the data, which is pretty handy. Another really cool thing is that you can, on the fly, change segments to be included or excluded. So, for example, if I have my paid search users here, I may want to see, well, I want to see the inverse of that, people who are not paid search users. Well, all you have to do is click on that, and it inverts the segment to be excluded. Now I can see all of the people who did not qualify for that segment. So really, really simple and easy. I can also add segments directly to my metric columns here as well. So I could say, hey, I just want to see on this column, email users and organic search users. You'll see that they stack up here, and I can remove them or edit them for this little icon. I can also change them to or as well on this single column. So segments can be incredibly powerful, helping you understand all of the different ins and outs of how your users are moving through your site, looking at temporal boundaries to see what happened after a specific key event or before. So that's segments. And, if you want to try it, go ahead and hit the sign up or join the wait list to try it out yourself. And I'd be happy to give you access. Thanks for watching, and good luck out there.